This version to be spoken into audio by the author, myself, Eugene, son of Douglas. So, a little bit of warning beforehand because things happen whenever you're doing live recording, which this is. And so, if you hear horns, whistles, things of such nature, it just means I'm trying to get through this thing in one blow, live reading what I've written before. If my voice cracks, well, more proof that I'm real human, right? Exactly. Here we go. Sydney, Australia, the home of Captain Oliver Steinway. Captain's log, stardate 91136.4. I've been given a home to use while on Earth. Currently in Sydney, Australia, Admiral Browning assigned me to another ship while the recommission of the Saxon is underway. TREK Neutron is the name of that ship. The Neutron is currently at Pier 38, next to the Saxon. There's no crew for the Neutron, therefore my current crew will be relocated to the Neutron. The Neutron is of the same basic design as the Saxon. Both are mainly for cargo, with the options of carrying people. I'm told the Saxon will be very much the same as the Neutron is now after the refit. This will be an excellent opportunity for myself and my crew to learn a new ship with the same design as the Saxon will be in 100 days. As I and my crew had been on the Saxon for only about a week, I have made the decision to call the crew back to duty on the Neutron starting tomorrow. Maybe if Starfleet would have given me the heads up about the Saxon needing a refit, I would have made plans to be on a ship like the Neutron before accepting a command on the Saxon. However, I, as a ship's captain, cannot magically force Starfleet to tell me things that they know before I know them. End of Captain's log. Starfleet, Terminal 1. A young ensign approached, stopped, and gave me a smart salute. Are you Captain Steinway? Asked the ensign, who also had brown hair. I returned the salute and said, Yes, that's me. I am to take you where Admiral Browning is waiting on the shuttle to be taken to the Saxon in orbit, said the young ensign. Show me the way, I said. I followed him onto the shuttle that was marked Neutron Shuttle 1. The Admiral was sitting at the controls of the shuttle. At the same time, on my left, as I entered, most of the members of my crew were already on board and stood to attention. At ease, everyone, I said, turning to the right now and entering the command section. I stood motionless, waiting for the Admiral to turn and look at me. And when he did, he saw and said, Captain Steinway, is it? Aye, sir, I said, and that was my turn to salute him, which I did. Thank you, Captain, said the Admiral, saluting me in return. The Admiral continued, I will be piloting the shuttle today up to the Saxon. I wanted to go on board to inspect it. However, I will not have you following me around or anything. You may depart as soon as I'm on board the Saxon. You will be taking yourself and your crew on this shuttle to the Neutron. The refit, they tell me, is to take approximately 100 days, but you never know with these things. Be prepared to stay on the Neutron a bit longer than you might expect. That said, don't grow roots by any means to that ship. Some upstart back here on Earth may decide to try and gain captainship of the Saxon while you're away. We would not want that to happen, would we? No, sir, we would not, I said. Excuse me. Admiral Browning had replaced the co-pilot, Warrant Officer Tony Skynes, in the shuttle. I want to see this myself from the front, said the Admiral. Let me take a drink here. Lieutenant Salata was the main pilot for this shuttlecraft today. I maintained my position in the crew chief chair behind both of them. I will just keep an eye on you two from the crew chief's chair, I said, smiling. Admiral Browning turned to look at me. How often do you pilot shuttlecraft? Asked the Admiral. Only on very special away missions, I said. The shuttlecraft soon took off from the pad at Starfleet headquarters, Sydney, Australia, and continued on into outer space above the Australian continent. We soon came to the facility orbiting Earth. It was in fact a space station, and many crew members lived there while they worked on the ships. It had always reminded me of a large crab with legs reaching out around the ships that were docked. I watched as our two cargo ships came into view. I noted that the name had already been replaced on the old ship. It was now the Saxon with SK that I believe stood for Space Cruiser, after the word Saxon on the saucer section. Over the years, incidentally, the letter C had finally been replaced by the letter K. The only thing that made this ship not totally a saucer were the two warp engines and the engineering section at the rear of the saucer. Starfleet has decided to make the switch to the runic system, leaving the alphabet behind, said the Admiral. You will soon see it on all of the ships. I remained silent for a moment, wondering if this was not a joke. Admiral, I said, I had heard the rumors of this happening. However, I did not realize it was a real thing. And why not, Captain? Said the Admiral. You've missed much of the happenings on Earth, no doubt. It seems that technicians have found that the Saxon or Anglo-Saxon runic alphabet fits much closer to the English language than the alphabet. Of course, we live with computers and androids which do most of our speaking for us. Yet we do put characters on objects, and ships are objects, and it was decided to institute the runes. I shrugged my shoulders and said nothing more. I'm joking, said the Admiral, laughing. It is true, however, that the option is available to use the runes on devices. I could never see the Starfleet actually allowing the change to the runic alphabet on the ships. To each their own, I said, with what I hoped was a funny smile. No one ever gets my jokes, said the Admiral. A few clicks of time later, after we observed the dry dock facility that contained both Piers 38 and 39, we temporarily docked with our old ship, leaving the Admiral on board the Saxon. I turned and waved Skynes forward to replace the spot in the co-pilot's seat. We soon departed and moved for docking with the Neutron. As soon as we're on board, move the shuttle to the shuttle bay, I said. The lieutenant saluted and nodded in reply. SK Neutron 91137.6. There's an extra 6 there. Okay. Moving on. Myself and my crew exited the shuttle onto the Neutron. Corridor level 4. Myself and Fowler were the last to exit from the shuttle. It has that new ship smell, does it not, Captain? Said Fowler, walking beside me. Indeed it does, I replied. We continued walking down the corridor behind the other crew members as we went to our areas of assignment. And before they got too far ahead, I said, everyone take some time off, rest, and be ready by 7. Entering the turbo lift, I said, computer, I said, take us to the officer's lounge. Officer's lounge. The first thing I noted as we entered the officer's lounge was the fact that there was no bartender. I will be the bartender today, said Fowler, walking around the end of the bar. Are you going to assign an android or are you going to assign a Guinan droid? Oh, that's right, I said. A Guinan is not actually a droid. It's a holodeck character. I think it will be an android this time, I said. And as if called for, Android Felix entered the officer's lounge. Did someone call for me? I suppose you will do for now, said Fowler. You having a red splash on your collar means you are made for bridge duty. So, no, there will be another, of course. I noticed looking around that other members of the crew were walking into the officer's lounge. Engineer Hawks, I said, we will be needing replication duty to produce an android special made for bartender duties. Make it so. Captain, if I make it so, it will be a seamstress. Sorry, little joke there, Captain, said the engineer. I have it on good authority that there already is a bartender named Android Bart, located not far from here. I want to add my opinion to this, however, that simply placing appropriate hologram emitters around the place have worked on most, as well as our old ship, for bartender duties. Very good, I said, but we will talk more about the hologram later. The ship's engineer then left the lounge temporarily, returning moments later with the android, looking very much like a good bartender should. Bart Android at your service, it said as it walked around the bar to replace the executive officer. Ah, said Fowler, I was just about to have fun doing this. Number 1, I said, you can still help. Make me a pina colada. Anyone else want a pina colada? Said Bart, the bartender. The new bartender became very busy as the rest of the crew either took a seat at tables or stepped up to the bar. Corridor level 3, 91137.68. Me, number 1, and Georgina Hawks, the engineer, decided to take a walk down the corridor and try out the holodeck. We were rather stunned to find that there was no holodeck control panel or indication. It simply said cargo hold level 3 on the door. Hawks, I said, did you know about this? No, sir, I did not. However, let's go inside and look around. I have a suspicion that the thing was not installed. However, all of the equipment may be intact. Let's go see. The doors to the holodeck slid open, revealing a standard cargo hold. Cargo hold level 3. We three began rummaging around the crates and boxes. See over here, Captain, said the engineer. It is as I suspected. In these crates are the equipment for the holodeck. Very well, I said. Engineer Hawks, it is your job to see that this is installed when time allows. Aye, sir, she said with exasperation. I looked around. I certainly hope that our data tablets and equipment are also on board, I said. Hawks came to me with a data tablet. Captain, this is interesting. Take a look at this. I did look, and all of the characters were in the runic alphabet letters. I suppose we had better learn the runic letters soon rather than later, I said. I smiled. Admiral Browning is taking this joke a little bit further than I thought he would. You do realize that it was a joke made by the Admiral, don't you? I said. He does the joke thing too seriously, said Hawks. You never know when it's a joke or the real thing. Even if it was a real, no worries, said Hawks. These things will speak to us, no doubt. Let's give it a try. It was as she said. The tablets were basically an android in small tablet form. This was historically also a return to a much earlier time when everyone had what was then called smartphones, and interestingly enough, many of them were also called androids. This tablet had a 3 on the face of it. Thankfully, it was not a runic type of 3. How do you do this? I said. How do you do what, Captain? Asked the engineer. Do you just say tablet 3? I asked. That is correct, said a voice from the tablet. Have you been listening to me? I asked the tablet. It is true that I have been listening. However, it was only after you turned me on. I'll have to remember that, I said. I walked around the room for a bit, and then I took a seat on one of the boxes and was thinking the thing over. I felt tired, rather sleepy. Where's my waitstaff? Said Bart. Android Felix stood and said, I will help. Why have I not noticed that Android Felix's rank has been reduced? I said. It was the Admiral's doing, said Felix. Did he give a reason? I asked. Dear Captain, there was a deficiency found in my programming. I would have thought you would have been the first to advise a reduction of my rank. I can't say that then I paused, thinking of the proper words to say. I would have to agree with the Admiral's choice to reduce your rank. For reasons I don't want to go into here, we will see what time does with this decision. Then Fowler turned and looked at me and said, Well, it's like this very strange decision that came from Starfleet about the rune. One could think that it is fitting for the new ship's name, of course, the Saxon. However, I do not think it fitting to go all the way, all in, and change the whole messaging system with a rune. I have been in the discussions, I said, interesting discussions, mainly concerning the fact that a device, androids, artificial intelligence, and the voice coming from the speaker or from the mouth, the hearing with the ear can and maybe should replace the system of writing. Assistant Skynes from the other end of the bar spoke up. Well, then why do we need to change it to a rune? If the amount of text has lessened because of the addition of artificial intelligence and the ability for audio to take its place, why? That was also entered in the discussion by some people in the meeting at Starfleet, I said. This is why it is discretionary only. That is to say, it is in a testing and trial stage. I was looking around the room, trying to spot my engineering staff. Just then, I awakened, realizing that I had dozed off and was apparently dreaming something about Bart the android needing help, and then I guess the dream had just taken off from there. Looking at the other side of the room, I saw my engineer and walked to ask her a question. Assistant Hawks, I believe the use of a particular character base, however you say it, for communications on the ship and with the computer is discretionary. That is to say that I am the one that can decide the situation, and that being so, I decide to allow the user to make the decision on their own. Correct you are, Captain, said Hawks. I will pass it along. It also says the same thing in the memo from Starfleet on the issue. I felt myself blushing. Oh, yes, I said. It has something to do with a dream that I just had after I dozed off over there on the crates. I was dreaming that we were having just this kind of discussion. Also, I think you need to have more rank yourself. I will put you in for promotion. A field promotion, even now. You should be at least an assistant commander. Why, thank you, Captain, said the engineering chief. I will add a new pip on my collar. Do you suppose we could get by with using old style declarations of rank, sir? I do not see any reason why not, I said. We can try it on and do it as our own thing while we're on our ship. However, when people visit, we should take that into account. She merely nodded about it in reply. You start with, so here's how it is. So you start with one black pin or pip, warrant officer, one silver pip, ensign, one black and one silver pip, lieutenant, junior grade, two silver pips, lieutenant, one black, two silver, lieutenant commander, three silver, commander, and four silver, captain. Of course, the current Starfleet way, of course, is not far different. So we have warrant officers that are black pins. We have officer to designate when someone used to be called an ensign. And then we say that someone is an assistant junior grade rather than a lieutenant. Then there is the assistant, and then we have assistant commander, and then commander and captain. I admit, I said, that at times I like the older way. Yet I also like the new way, but for the older folks it is rather confusing. And with that, I think that we need to move on with things. I need to go and look the bridge over. Don't let me tell you what to do, of course, not too much. But you should go to the engineering section now, Lieutenant, I said to the engineer with a quick smile. Aye, sir. I will add one thing. The change of the rank style is very likely also related to the joking around by the Admiral. So do not be surprised if we go back to the old style. It may be a fact that the Admiral was just joking around. I think it's going to come back and bite him on his ass one of these days. I did not wait for a response and walked out into the area outside of the cargo hold that would soon enough be a holodeck again. Level 3 corridor. We all exited into the level 3 corridor. The lieutenant went along to engineering. I and my executive officer, Commander Fowler, went in the direction of the turbolift. Turbolift. Take us to the bridge, I said. Bridge. The bridge looked exactly the same as the bridge on the Saxon. I tried out the captain's chair. No difference between the one here and the one on the Saxon. Commander, I said, you take the first shift, so you have the bridge, number one. Aye, sir, said number one. I will be in my quarters, I said. Made my way to my captain's quarters. I entered my quarters to see that there was a bed, and that's all I cared about. So with that, I lay down and slept my first time on the Neutron. And I made a special note from the author, Eugene, son of Douglas. So I put in there, if you choose to read this, I suppose I should. A special note by the author of this work in regards to the text that you will see. I primarily work audio to text, like many do nowadays, and so if you see any mistakes, it is very likely because of the mistake made by the algorithm on the phone that I was using to record the words that you see. I'm using Google's product known as the Gboard app, an app that goes on Android phones for the keyboard. So the text to audio, I have an appointment. You may read the rest. Thanks for listening.